听专家解读美国升学方案，看美国学习生活点滴，圆美国名校梦想。本节目由美国文美教育集团冠名播出。
大家好，欢迎收看文美集团美国升学直通车。文美集团美国升学直通车是华人网和文美教育集团联合制作播出的北美首档大型的网络直播教育节目。在我们的节目当中，你将会了解到最新最权威的教育资讯，还有升学的建议。无论是学生还是家长，有任何美国升学教育问题，都可以给我们留言。美国文美集团美国大学申请规划服务第一品牌，20年经验，万博士领衔常春藤顾问团队，中美双顾问模式服务一个学生，按照大学录取学校排名收费，与孩子形成利益共同体。华人老品牌，值得您的信赖。文美集团隆重推出 ACAP 大学专业及职业测评规划管理系统，华人升学机构首创，完美解决华人学生最大升学痛点。人工智能提前锁定大学专业方向，提前2到5年布局申请。有了专业测评系统，孩子的课程规划更清晰，活动更聚焦，文书更有故事感，大学申请更有竞争力。5到11年级学生都可以报名参加测评。文美集团1对1非营利组织成立运营领导力项目，让孩子从参与者变为领导者，真正成长、成人、成才，进名校。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。文美集团社会影响力联合国网络义工课程，节省孩子时间，做名校认可的社会影响力，高大上义工。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。今天我们邀请到前康奈尔大学的面试官，同时呢也是文美集团的顾问 Mr. Pierre 来和我们聊聊如何打造让招生官记住你的申请故事。有请 Mr. Pierre。Hello
everyone. My name is Pierre Rodriguez, commonly referred to as Mr. Pierre. I'm an admissions counselor for WenMei, and today's topic is building a cohesive narrative. So we're going to define what that is, we're going to look at the process, and then hopefully that will help you on your journey as well as understand it better. So today I'm going to show you how to build a cohesive narrative that ties your entire application together. So think of it as a common thread. Today we're going to cover why a narrative matters, the pieces that go into it, and a step-by-step process to craft it. We'll look at real examples of students aiming for top universities like Harvard, MIT, and Stanford, etc., and how they transform their profiles. You'll also get practical do's and don'ts, a checklist of next steps, and insider tips from research and admissions reports. Essays provide information about an applicant's motivation, resilience, leadership, and self-confidence, going beyond mere test scores. Let's dive in. So the first part is going to be about why your story matters. Why spend so much time and effort on a narrative? Top colleges use holistic admissions, meaning they look beyond numbers to see you as a person. Holistic review is like an in-depth narrative rather than just checking boxes. Essays and activities reveal things grades can't. Essays were designed to convey traits like motivation, leadership, and resilience. These personal qualities help admissions officers assemble a diverse class. And the stakes are high. Schools like Harvard and Stanford admit only about 3 to 4% of applicants today. In such a competitive pool, a clear, authentic story can sparkle in a sea of transcripts. Admissions officers, for their narrative, that's going to tell them who the applicant was, who they are, and who they will be. Another trend to consider is that in 2024 to 2025, Dartmouth, Yale, and Brown reinstated SAT and ACT requirements, citing data that scores plus grades best predicts success. So in other words, they found that people that tended to report their scores tended to do better overall, assuming their scores were strong. The takeaway is that colleges increasingly use every part of your application, from test scores to essays, to understand you. A cohesive narrative shows you in the best light across all different components, so it matters more than ever. The different parts of a cohesive narrative are going to be the threads that go through all parts of your application. And the first part is going to be interests and academics. So what excites you if you love computer science? For your courses might include advanced math and coding. If you're passionate about social justice, maybe you take humanities and volunteer in your community. These academic choices show a consistent focus. Extracurricular activities. So clubs, sports, arts, work, these should reinforce your theme. For example, if your narrative is about environmental science, you might join the Eco Club and do a related science fair project. Extracurriculars provide insight into your character, passions, and potential contributions. Don't feel you need dozens of activities. Depth and relevance are more important than quantity, even a non-traditional one, like the student who detailed hours of family chores, can add a unique dimension. So we talk about an important concept, the fundamental admissions principles, which basically relates how unique an activity is to how often it will be done by other students. So if you want to build a more unique profile and stand out, it's in your best interest to do activities that are not done by many students. So the next part would be essays. These are your main storytelling platform. You should echo your theme and open with a hook. Use concrete details and reflection. For instance, make sure that you have a good narrative by gesturing toward the past, include reflections from the present, and allude to the future. Each essay, whether it's Common App or supplements, can highlight different facets of you, but they should never contradict each other. The next part is recommendations. Choose teachers or mentors who've seen you shine in areas related to your theme. You can even guide them. For example, asking one teacher to highlight your project-based learning and another to discuss your leadership has proven effective. Their letters should reinforce the same story your essays tell. And the last part is going to be demonstrated interest. While not all top colleges weigh it heavily, showing genuine interest through specific supplements or interviews can underline your fit. Mentioning particular programs or professors in your essays can tie your narrative to that school. So something that we recommend at WinMay is once you have an idea of the types of schools that you will be applying to, it would be a good idea to try to complete summer programs with the schools. Because if you're able to do that, then you first learn about the culture there, you can learn about the quality of education there, and you can strengthen this idea that you would be a good fit given that you already have experience from learning at that institution. So everything really begins with a self-audit. That is step one. This means taking stock of your strengths, passions, and experiences. Make lists or a mind map of what you love doing and have done, from academics to hobbies to family influences. Ask yourself questions like, what am I most passionate about? And which experiences have shaped me? You might notice a theme emerging. For example, perhaps you've always been curious about how things work and have taken apart electronics and built robots. Or maybe community service and literature stir you. No theme is wrong, but you need to discover your theme before you can tell it. Be honest. Recognize any gaps or disjointed parts. If you have brilliant science projects but a jazz band and a debate club with no link, note that. This audit will lay the groundwork for the next step. So something that I'm working on recently with students is this worksheet and template that I made for themes. So that forces students to think about what are their main interests and compare the work that they've already done and also include a plan for what additional work or what other interests they might explore with the time they have left. I feel like this makes everything more focused. So that is what I've been working on recently for rising seniors, because they are at the point where they need to be finalizing their activities list because application season is starting really soon. Step 2 is going to be choosing your theme. So talking about themes, in this case, this is a theme for your cohesive narrative. Based on your self-audit, decide on a central narrative or message. This could be as specific as engineering to improve healthcare, or as broad as leadership through creativity. The key is unity. All parts of your applications should speak to this theme. A theme should tie personal experiences, academic interests, and extracurricular activities together. For instance, one student realized her narrative was service through technology. She was interested in computer science and had also tutored younger kids. So she framed her application around teaching coding to underprivileged youth. Once your theme is set, you can pursue opportunities and write essays that reinforce it. This is kind of like what I was talking about before that I've already been doing with students. But this time you're doing it in context of your entire application, not just your activities. The theme should excite you and feel genuine. If you can't speak about it passionately, your application won't be convincing. Okay, so now we move on to step 3. Step 3 is to align your activities with your chosen theme. Look at your resume of clubs, jobs, and projects. Do they all tie into the story? For example, if your theme is environmental science, being on the debate team is fine, but it should fit somehow. Maybe you wrote a debate policy on climate action. If something really doesn't fit, consider whether to drop it or explain it differently. So part of the challenge of having a good activities list and, that being related to your essays is that you need to find the right way to put everything together, because your activities are going to be referenced in your essays. So you can't include everything you did. It's a matter of making decisions in terms of what works well together. So after you do this, then you can pursue new opportunities that strengthen your narrative. This might mean joining a new club, for example, a robotics team for a tech theme, or a cultural organization for a theme about heritage. Starting a passion project, which is something that I've been helping students with, or volunteering in a relevant way. So in other words, once you define your theme, it's easier to keep building it and adding more things to it. Depth beats breadth here. Take on leadership, whether it's going to be a committee position, you could start a small research project, or you could mentor others to show commitment. Over time, your profile should paint a coherent picture. Your extracurriculars should reinforce and diversify your personal narrative, including even an unexpected activity like caring for a family member, for example, can add a unique dimension to your story. Step 4 is where your narrative really comes to life, the essays. Every essay should connect back to your theme. Start with a captivating hook, perhaps a brief anecdote or image that represents your story. For example, a computer science student might open with debugging code at midnight, or volunteer might describe a scene from a clinic. A strong narrative gives your submission a sparkle that quantitative metrics can't measure. So hook the reader's attention. In my work with students on essays, I talk about opening the essay with a compelling narrative. So you want to open with a scene, you want to open in the middle of the action, so that way the reader can be interested in reading the rest of your essay. Then after you do this, you can structure the essay with some kind of reflection. Discuss an experience related to your theme, the challenge or moment of change you faced, and what it taught you. Be honest and self-aware. Admissions want to see growth and sincerity. Use concrete examples, describe what you built or who you helped with details, and always tie back to the theme. Across all essays, whether it's a comment at personal statement or any supplemental questions, avoid repeating facts. Instead, present new facets of your story. For example, focus on one essay on family influence, another essay could be on a leadership moment, ensuring all align under the same narrative umbrella. Finally, proofread and revise carefully. Clarity and voice matter. Step 5 is planning your letters of recommendation. Pick teachers or mentors who have you seen engage with your theme. For example, if your narrative is about social justice and you excelled in English and history classes discussing these issues, ask one of those teachers. It's also smart to have one from a STEM course if you're applying for engineering, or an arts teacher if your narrative involves creativity. So again, context is everything. Crucially, brief your recommenders about your story. You can politely give them the bullet points or remind them of projects you did for their class that align with your theme. As one counselor suggests, you might even say, I'd love it if you could mention my interest in X. This helps their letters reinforce the same traits. Don't overload one perspective. Ideally, your letters together paint a full picture of who you are. Academically capable and a strong collaborator or leader, for example. The next part is going to be building a 2-year planning timeline. So on this timeline, you can see how to space tasks over 2 years. Start early. In late junior year, reflect on your story and test your theme. Spend junior year deepening relevant activities. During junior summer, begin drafting essays. Senior fall is for the final revisions, interviewing if offered, and submitting applications. So it's going to be full-on application season. The key is to plan ahead and keep your narrative in mind each step. So now we're going to look at some case studies. Here are 3 anonymized examples. Student A was interested in medicine. Before, her resume was unfocused. Random volunteering, a science fair entry. After narrative building, she reframed her story around community health. Her activities now include a campaign to bring health fairs to the underserved, and her essays focus on a clinic volunteer moment and a passion for biomedical research. Her recommenders, a doctor she shadowed, and her biology teacher highlight her sympathy and curiosity. She's now targeting pre-med programs at Harvard and Yale. Student B always loved engineering. Initially, he listed robotics club and coding, but he hadn't tied it together. After his narrative is innovation and mentorship, now he can talk about how he led a robotics research team that taught younger students, and his essays with building a robot prototype. Recommendation letters from his robotics coach and math teacher stress his technical talent and leadership. He's aiming for MIT and Stanford's engineering programs. And then finally, we have student C. Student C was a humanities student who loved debate and writing. We helped her find a unifying thread of storytelling for social change. She started a literary magazine focusing on social justice, and her personal statement vividly narrates giving a speech on immigration issues. Her English teacher and debate coach write about her voice and critical thinking. She targets schools like Princeton and Stanford for government or English. Each of these after profiles shows all elements: interests, extracurriculars, essays, recommendation letters, aligned under one theme. This table compares how their narratives come together. Notice how the theme guides every part. Even if you apply to 20 different top schools, the principle is the same. Tell one clear story through your interests, activities, and words. So the next section, we can think about it as do's and don'ts. So here's a quick do and don'ts list. Do be authentic. So write a story that only you can tell. Your narrative must sound like you. Use vivid details, paint a picture of your experience. Keep a clear focus of your theme everywhere. As we saw, a good narrative provides insight into your perspective. Don't fall back on overused phrases or unrelated bragging. For example, saying you have a passion for helping people is easy, but show it through a story instead. Don't include activities just to pad your resume if you don't connect to your theme. If those things that you're talking about don't connect to your theme. And definitely proofread. Admissions officers notice typos. Lastly, any unethical shortcuts, make sure that you avoid those. Every part of the application should be your own work. And then finally, we have the checklist, which includes actionable steps. So action items, use this checklist as your roadmap. Start with honest self-reflection. That's going to be number 1. And research of college's need. That's going to be number 2. Align your junior year and senior year courses and extracurriculars around your theme. So what I tell students a lot of the time is freshman year and sophomore year are more experimental. It's your time to really try out different clubs and see, if you're interested in those things. Whereas junior year and senior year, you can really specialize. You have to kind of narrow down where your interests are so that you can really focus on that and build them, which is going to help you on your applications. Align your junior year, senior year courses and extracurriculars around your theme. Begin drafting essays early, possibly over the summer. Number 4, share drafts with trusted mentors, but remember your voice must shine through. Keep a timeline of all deadlines and interview dates. Finally, remember that your narrative can evolve. As you have new experiences, tweak your theme so that it always has the best of you. So now the next section we are going to talk about is insider secrets. So these are going to be some tips to consider. Finally, a few insider tips. Admissions officers do read essays carefully. They've read thousands and thousands of essays, so they have an intuition on these things. They notice a detailed scene or a heartfelt reflection. If you have a mundane sounding activity like weekly piano practice or helping siblings, frame it. Even a mundane duty can reveal character. One recent trend, top colleges have ended test optional policies. This means high test scores now further strengthen your academic profile. You can think of them as one more part of your narrative's evidence. Another secret still is going to be colleges don't want templated answers. When writing supplements about why school X be genuine, don't just list well-known facts, show a course or lab that will help you follow your own story. And then finally, one more tip, create an outline for each essay. Make sure each prompt you answer highlights a different angle of your narrative. So a lot of the time I tell students that the value of reading a book per se is that it can add a new perspective on something. So for instance, if you want to read a book on engineering and you want to be an engineering student, that will give you a different angle that you can use because you'll see things through the eye of an engineer. That way your story stays fresh. In short, treat your application like a puzzle. Each piece, your essay, activity, or recommendation letter should fit together in a clear picture that an admissions officer will remember. So now let's talk about some additional sources that you might be able to consider for further information on this topic. So in summary, building a cohesive narrative is about connecting the dots of your experiences. We've seen that a unified story from your favorite classes to your leadership role to your essays can make a strong impression in this ultra-competitive landscape. We've drawn on reliable data. For example, MIT emphasizes they admit people, not numbers. And Harvard and Stanford's offices report acceptance rates in the low single digits, actually. So like 3 or 4% around there. To learn more, consult the sources we have went over, including official admissions websites and reputable publications, such as the Harvard Crimson or Inside Higher Ed. So I just wanted to conclude by saying thank you for your attention. take these steps and examples to heart. Start planning now and let your unique story shine. If you have any questions or need guidance, WenMei is here to help. So I wish you a lot of luck. And just to recap everything, sometimes you have multiple interests, and in those cases, things get a little bit more complicated if you're trying to find an overall theme. But I think it's easier to look at the connection, because sometimes they're not the same thing, but they have a lot of parallels and similarities. So that's why you want to work on your themes. You want to fill out that template so that way you can start finding these types of connections. And with that, I conclude today's meeting. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
感谢 Mr. Pierre 今天和我们的分享。你有任何的问题呢，都可以直接来咨询文美集团。美国文美集团，美国大学申请规划服务第一品牌，20年经验，万博士领衔常春藤顾问团队，中美双顾问模式服务1个学生，按照大学录取学校排名收费，与孩子形成利益共同体。华人老品牌，值得您的信赖。文美集团隆重推出 ACAP 大学专业及职业测评规划管理系统，华人升学机构首创，完美解决华人学生最大升学痛点。人工智能提前锁定大学专业方向，提前2到5年布局申请。有了专业测评系统，孩子的课程规划更清晰，活动更聚焦，文书更有故事感，大学申请更有竞争力。5到11年级学生都可以报名参加测评。文美集团1对1非营利组织成立运营领导力项目，让孩子从参与者变为领导者，真正成长、成人、成才进名校。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。文美集团社会影响力联合国网络义工课程，节省孩子时间，做名校认可的社会影响力，高大上义工。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。感谢大家今天的收看，我们下次再见。